Hey everybody, this is Dave and welcome to the Table. And the first thing that I want to say is Happy New Year to you, and I wish you and your family a prosperous 2016. Now we're a few days into the new year, and I wanted to take the time to do a wrap-up for 2015. So I want to talk about things that we've done in the gaming industry with my channel, things that I've seen in the industry, some thoughts on that. I'm going to talk about my top games of 2015, and then also some of the new developments in the news for 2016 and things that are going to be implemented in my channel and other media moving forward into this new year. So what I'm going to do, because this is going to be kind of a little bit of a longer video, if you look in the video description below, you will see little time markers that you can click on. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can skip to the different sections to hear what I have to say. With that being said, let's get started. And the first thing that I want to talk about is basically the 2015 year in review. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is conventions. Really quickly, we attended 4 conventions this year. Went to Origins, went to Gen Con, went to Grand Con, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then Great Lakes Gathering of Friends, that's an invite-only one in Auburn, Indiana, near Fort Wayne. And so I think that if you are involved in the gaming hobby, that it is a great idea to go to some of these conventions, to open your eyes, to see the greater gaming community, get a chance to meet some new people, and then also get a chance to interact with these different board game designers and producers and stuff at the booths. So that's something that's really kind of exciting, and there's lots of smaller ones, and there are a number of larger ones to take advantage of. So a couple other big conventions I did not get a chance to attend, but seems to be increasing in popularity is Geekway to the West, which is down in St. Louis, and then also we have the Dice Tower Con down in Florida that Tom Vassell and his crew puts on, and then also BGG Con down in Dallas. So those are some other big ones that are nationally known. But really quickly, by thoughts, I want to talk about the 2 major conventions that we went to, Origins and Gen Con. Origins, I went out there for a day. So went on the Saturday, drove out there early in the morning, stayed there, had my one daughter, Catherine, with me. Got a chance to meet some people and talk, and was very nice because from a media standpoint, it's not as crazy and hectic as Gen Con, so I was actually able to talk to the different publishers and designers and stuff, so it was a lot nicer that way. I found the convention to be very family friendly, and it's a lot more low-key, and there's like a lot of housing and everything can stay right there, and so the convention center in Columbus is very nice, and there's, you know, it's everything that you can do at Gen Con you can do here, except it's on a smaller scale. So I really enjoyed it. In fact, they had some new releases that came out there. We had Bring Out Your Dead from Upper Deck came out there. Spyfall from Cryptozoic came out. Parfum from Queen Games and Asmodee. I know those 3 off the top of my head came out there. There may have been some other new releases, but I just remember those. And so I'm hoping to see more of the publishers pushing their release dates up and releasing at Origins instead of holding back for Gen Con, hoping to see more people attending Origins. Went to Gen Con. I was there the whole time. We were very fortunate to have downtown housing, despite the fact that we had a 90-minute wait on that whole housing portal. It was a mess, but we were able to stay downtown, but not the whole stay. Like the first night I had to stay about 15 minutes away and drive in, and then the rest of the time we stayed downtown. But fortunately I had 2 of my kids with me that while we were doing some stuff, we had done a check-in over online, and they moved stuff into the room, so it was good to have the kids with. And my kids are teenagers, so it's not like I have little ones running around doing stuff. So while we were at Gen Con, helped a number of publishers in demoing their games, and I have to say I probably did it too much this year. I helped out just on my own. I just offered to volunteer, and so I ended up not being able to demo like try other games. I was busy demoing my stuff that I did on my own, and I missed out on a lot of being able to participate in events and stuff. So I'm going to have to rethink how I am going to do that in the future. But we helped out, between myself and my daughter Rebecca, we helped out Haba Games. My daughter was over there helping them out in like the family center. She was running some of their games. In fact, I think the most popular thing over there was they happened to have a giant version of Rhino Hero that people were playing. She helped out with Calliope Games over at their booth. And then I helped out Portal Games and Passport Game Studios, and together the two of us helped out Floodgate Games. So we did all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. Lots of number of new releases that came out for Gen Con, but a lot of things that seemed to be previews of things that were coming. And so this year Gen Con, in terms of releases, just didn't really didn't have the excitement as last year. So, but my top 3 picks and games that I was able to get copies of, Tides of Time was my #1 Gen Con pre-order thing that I made sure to get on. New York 1901 was another essential one. I was fortunate enough to get a copy of this, and Animal Upon Animal Crest Climbers from Haba. We really love Animal Upon Animal, and this one, it makes it this one here makes it a lot more complex because the shapes of the animals are a little trickier. So that's with the conventions. We talk about new releases. This year, though, Essen seemed to have a lot more games that interested me, a lot more of the Euros. That's kind of my own vein of things. My top Essen picks were Signorie from What's Your Game. My Village came out from Pegasus Spiele. That'll be coming into the U.S. through Stronghold. Antarctica from designer Charles Chevalier. I really like Charles, and Argentum Verlag. They brought that out. Britannia was another game that it's sold out. It's about building lighthouses, and that one is from Placentia Games. And then Lignum from Muckspiel. Now, Lignum, I will just say it's not going to be listed in my top 10 games for 2015, but Lignum is my game of the year, and the reason why it's not going to be on that list is there were only 800 copies published and they're gone. So 400 of them were on pre-order, 400 of them for sale at the convention. I actually have a copy of it, and I'll be doing a review of it, but it's not fair to put that on the list if you can't go out and readily find it. So that's a little caveat there. Talk about the growth of the hobby. This year, attendance was up for both Origins and Gen Con. See lots and lots of titles coming out this year, so it's a good sign when you start seeing more and more people coming to the big conventions. In fact, Gen Con is going to be expanding into Lucas Oil Stadium for some of their events, so that's huge because the convention center is already a very, very good size. I think if they wanted to have it all under one roof, the spot to have Gen Con would be McCormick Place in Chicago. However, the biggest limiting factor for that is that there is not lodging close to the McCormick Place. There's one hotel attached, and everything else is you got to go by driving or a cab. Otherwise, that would be the spot to have everything all under one roof. But Indianapolis is, and that particular area is very, very family friendly in terms of restaurants and being able to move around, and it seems to be a rather safe area. So I think in Indiana is also very friendly towards Gen Con. But we had attendance going up. Also, we're starting to see some visible signs of this board game renaissance. I noticed on TV, Hasbro Gaming was having commercials on the television about playing board games and buying board games. Now, granted, these are mass market games, but still, if they're putting out the commercial saying "go grab a game," they're trying to promote it too, and that's good. If it's going to take a mass market game to get families interested in wanting to sit down together again, that's awesome. I'm all for that. And also, I noticed that the shelves were empty in my local stores, like right around, after Christmas. The board game sections have been pretty much wiped clean. There's still some that are out there, but I saw a lot of holes in the shelves, and so it was nice to see those sales. And also, we saw some of the gateway games at my local Target were completely blown off the shelves, and so that was really, really good to see. Some of the, again, for the mass market, we had a few hits this year. Star Wars Risk, I have them on the floor. That was a big one that people were looking forward to. It's kind of like inspired by the Star Wars Queen's Gambit. Came out, the original version came out with the whole Star Wars toy release a couple months ago, when they were releasing all the toys for the new Force Awakens. And then in November they released the Black Edition, which is a really tricked out version of Star Wars Risk. I have both of them. If you're going to spend the money, get the black box, because it's worth it. The pieces and everything are much better quality. Another big mass market hit was Exploding Kittens. This one came out big time on Kickstarter. I mean, this was like, I think, one of the top generating Kickstarter projects ever. It's a silly card game, but this one was quite successful. I've seen a number of people playing this one. This is a way better alternative than Cards Against Humanity, which is another one that people are buying. The other huge one in terms of mass market games was Pie Face. I don't have Pie Face, but it sold out. It was the top selling game for Christmas, and essentially it's like a Russian roulette. But you spin this little spinner and you stick your face through this, there's like some ears, and there's a hand, and you put whipped cream on there, and you turn these little clicks, and if it goes off, you get whipped cream in your face. So it's a silly game, but that was like the top one. I mean, you can't find it anywhere. And a couple things that I wanted to talk about still, some relevance of some of the mass market games. Still selling tons and tons and tons of copies of Monopoly. It's not a game that I enjoy, but I do have a copy in the house, and my kids, actually, my son won a copy of the Game of Thrones version of Monopoly at Gen Con, and so they were playing it. And as long as people are playing games, that's the main thing. But they're still relevant today. Monopoly is still relevant. A couple other games out there. Stratego from Patch Products had gotten a redone. They went, they fixed up the pieces, went back to the old Napoleonic artwork and stuff. And then, like Scotland Yard, this one's Ravensburger, but this is still, I think this game still has a lot of merit. It was a 1983 Spiel des Jahres winner, and I think now, if you can find it, it's a great game that you want to get into, especially if you want to springboard into some other hidden role game or hidden identity games and hidden movement that have become popular this year, with Letters from Whitechapel that just got reprinted, and then a third edition now of Fury of Dracula. So they are all in the same vein as that. So things that you may want to check out. And so some of the mass market games, they still have relevance today, even though they've been out for a long time. A couple other things I want to talk about. Amazon.de, which is the German website for Amazon. And they made it a point now, a couple months ago, to have a beta version of the website coming up in English. So before, if you went to Amazon.de, if you were not using Google Chrome, everything came up in German. And if you could not read the German language, you were in trouble. And so they came out with an English beta version, so now the site comes up in English just like Amazon.com. And a really nice thing is that now, for English-speaking people here, especially in the United States, it's going to make it easier for us to import some of the games that we would like to have in our collections. So shipping is not super cheap, but it's not terrible when you go through Amazon, and if you place larger orders, it becomes more worthwhile. But right now, the euro and the US dollar are pretty close, so it's swinging that. You have to watch that. If the dollar is strong, then works out in our favor. But you can get a lot of games brought over for relatively inexpensive. Sometimes you can bring a title over with shipping for less than you can buy it in the United States. So something to definitely be looking at that way for getting some of those hard to find titles. And also, and I talked about this in my pimping the games videos, if you're using sleeves and things like that, you can you can get those games that you want, and you still have room to put paste ups in there, or you can buy language independent games. So it's going to open up that way. And the other Amazon site, Amazon.fr, I've been browsing that, and the publisher Yellow, they're based out of France, and you can get some of the French copies brought into some of their games that are language independent, that are only the European market. So I think it was for, I want to say it was Yardmaster, might be Yardmaster Express, but they did Aramini Circus, which is in their mini game series, and it has these like circus train artwork, and so you can use that to bring in those particular titles. So just a couple things to check out for your game buying, but these are some things that are becoming more popular that I noticed in 2015. Really quickly, Kickstarter. Kickstarter, a lot of pluses and negatives for that. 2015, I saw a lot of junk. So me personally, I kind of backed off from Kickstarter for multiple reasons. The biggest thing is it's been a lot of junk on there, so you spend a lot of time browsing through stuff, and it's like nothing really looked appealing to me. I mean, I did back some projects, don't get me wrong, but more often than not, I saw a lot of junk on there. Although there were some huge hits, Exploding Kittens was a big one, and I know like Mare Nostrum from Academy Games was big, generated a lot of money. But for me personally, what I saw is the projects that I have backed in the past, there's this long period of time from the time the campaign ends till they show up, and I have this cooling off period, and I lose interest in the games, and they just end up sitting on the shelf or go right into the trade bin, because I'm like, oh, well, now that it's out, and it's like, well, it was good maybe then, and now I've moved on to something else, my game tastes have changed or whatever. So those are some of the things that led into me pulling back a little bit. And I'm just kind of wondering, this is a question that I'll pose here, and you can go ahead and comment in the video description below too, is what do you think is going to happen with Kickstarter coming into 2016? I'm going to predict a slight decline in the number of people that are backing projects, because I think that as people become more into the hobby, they are going to be accustomed to looking for higher quality games. And not to say that on Kickstarter there are not high quality games, but I think that we're going to see more looking at some of the well-known publishers. Now, with that being said, on Kickstarter, some of the established publishers that have been using Kickstarter will continue to be successful, and we will still see good games there. But I'm going to say that the number of crappy projects are probably going to be going down. So if that makes sense to you. So I think that you're going to still see people backing projects, just you're not going to see like huge numbers of people using it like we've seen in the past. I may be wrong, but that's just my own speculation. I want to hear what you have to say, so comment below. I'd like this to have a discussion about that. Some other things. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Catan received a whole new 5th edition. So what they did was brand new artwork across the boards. They dropped the Settlers of Catan and just went with the Catan as a general name for it itself, and they did some clarifications on some of the cards in the game itself, and so very, very nicely done. Speaking of Catan, huge news this morning. Today is, I think, the 7th of January. I looked at the Board Game Geek feed, and Asmodee has acquired the English rights for Catan from Mayfair. So what does that mean? That means that a number of people from Mayfair are transitioning over now to this new, what they call Catan Studio, that Asmodee is going to have control of. So that's going to, and I'm going to talk about that more, but that's going to be, that was a big, huge thing. Now Asmodee has just acquired the top-selling line from Mayfair Games. Let's see, what else do we have here? Well, let's talk about some mergers. So, Asmodee North America, as they are now known as of January 1st, had some big changes coming about in this past little over a year. First thing that Asmodee did was they acquired Days of Wonder, and so they were going to start distributing and publishing the Days of Wonder line. And then they acquired Queen Games and Pearl Games. And then they merged with Fantasy Flight Games earlier this year. And then they announced they announced it actually in December that as of January 1st, it was going to be now known as Asmodee North America, and all their business operations were going to be moved to Minnesota, where the Fantasy Flight headquarters was. And now, with this further acquisition now of Asmodee acquiring the Catan line, this is going to really generate a lot of interest in seeing what's going to happen with Asmodee coming in 2016, because they already have had 2/3 of the market share, and now they are going to have even more power. And they've caused a lot of controversy, at least in forums on Board Game Geek, about now they're really going to be pushing for the brick and mortar sales of their games, and you have to have these rules about being an authorized retailer, and then really limiting the online sales. So we're going to have to see how all that comes out. But this acquiring of the Catan line is going to give them even more power, and we'll have to see what's going to happen with Asmodee going forward. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, Z-Man Games. They changed their name earlier in the year to this F2Z Entertainment. So they had, with Philosophia, is another, that's a French company. They changed their name now, and they acquired Plaid Hat Games at Gen Con. That was huge. And then also the guy who founded Z-Man Games has announced that his departure from them. So that's going to be something else that is, we'll see how that's going to affect Z-Man moving forward. Some other things too. I talked about Mayfair selling off their Catan line. This is going to be could be good or bad. This past year, Mayfair Games had a large number of releases. They had a lot of games that came out this year. But I think that this selling off of the Catan line, it could be good for Mayfair, and it may be bad. I think that it's going to be good because it's going to have to push them to make sure that the games that they are releasing are of good quality and they're good games in order to maintain sales that people are going to buy. So I think that this is going to be good. They're also going to, we'll have to see how this is going to affect their development, because we have some of the people that were some heavy hitters with Mayfair. I don't know if they're staying on with Mayfair, but they are going to become part of this Catan studio with Asmodee. But the other thing that it may be bad is I'm wondering how many other lines are they going to be shedding, because Mayfair has Lookout Games, which produces a lot of the German Euros that they are publishing, and so I'm wondering what's going to happen with Lookout Games. So we'll have to see. That way. Now, some things publishers to watch for in 2016. Couple I want to talk about real quick. Passport Game Studios, they own a number of they are working with a number of other publishers and doing some distribution, and then they also had their own IP that they published with Fool's Gold. But Loot Creations, this year they're going to have Town Center from Alban Viard, pretty heavy game. He's quite popular. NSKN Games, they published Cymerge is going to be coming out with a board building game. It's really cool. Argentum Verlag, we have Antarctica that just came out at the end of the year. Maybe we'll see some more from them. I know Funforge, we're going to have an expansion coming for Tokaido, so that's going to be exciting. They are publishing partners with Pegasus Spiele, so we'll see what lines what games are going to come from them. And then the other one that was a kind of a big news for people who like to play heavy games, that Passport is going to be taking care of Food Chain Magnate, which is from Splotter. So that's going to be exciting for a lot of people. That game has generated a lot of interest. Tasty Minstrel Games, another publisher that I'm going to say we're going to want to watch in 2016. Michael Mendez has published a number of articles, and I think that they've been working on getting organized and really getting themselves set to move forward. They had a number of solid releases come out this year. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do this coming year. I know off the top of my head there's going to be an expansion for Eminent Domain. I'm hoping to see them continue to work with DLP games, and like to see them bring out the expansion for Orleans. They did the deluxe version of Orleans, which is fantastic. But the other thing too, I'd like to see Tasty Minstrel hopefully get some rights to some more of the Stefan Feld games, like In the Year of the Dragon or Macau. Maybe we can print those and get those available, because they did something to bring Luna to us. So curious to see what they're going to do. Portal Games. So this is a publisher definitely to watch over the past couple years. Ignacy Trzewiczek has been working hard to bring Portal Games to the United States from the Polish market. He hired on Chevy Dodd to be his U.S. representative, and so we're going to start seeing more presence of Portal at the different conventions, and we're starting to see Portal titles showing up in more distribution channels. So it's really, I'm wanting to say, keep an eye on them. Some big things. Imperial Settlers came out 2 years ago. Huge game. He's going to be coming out with a 51st State Master set. Now, 51st State is set in the Hiroshima Hex universe. And the original release, the rules were not good. They suck. And so they're going back and they're working on redoing the rules. The rules are going to be similar to in style as Imperial Settlers. So look for that to come out. We're going to have a 2-player game with Convoy. That's going to be hitting the U.S. soil here pretty soon, along with the 5 Families expansion for Legacy Duke de Cressy. And then My Happy Farm, that's going to be coming out too. It's a family game, and what they did was updated the artwork and tweaked the rules. That was originally published by the now defunct 5th Street Games. So curious to see. I know, like I said, Ignacy's been working hard to bring those games to this market. Garfield Games down in New Zealand. This one may not be one that you've heard of before, but Shem Phillips is the designer who's got this North Seas trilogy of games, and the first 2 have come out. Shipwrights of the North Sea, Raiders of the North Sea, and now he's got this Explorers of the North Sea, which is going to be coming this year. And there's another, I think it's called Rune Saga or something like that. It's where you can play all 3 together. But this guy here, fantastic games. The mechanics are solid. His games are really, really good. And I'm hoping that 1 or 2 things will happen to him. Number 1, he will be approached by some larger publishers to get his game, or even distribution channels, to get his games out more readily accessible for people to buy. Or if he's going to continue to stay really independent, that he's going to make some moves like Shill Mill Games did to get their games into distribution through Amazon. Because being down in New Zealand, it's not like they're close by, and shipping is a real pain to do that. And so I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that, so I'd like to see that. Couple other publishers real quick. Calliope Games is going to be rolling out the first few games of their Titan series, I think around the time of Origins, so I'm curious to see what's going to happen with them. They had a quiet year this past year with just a couple of late releases, with Thieves and 12 Days coming out in November, December. So could be a good year for Calliope. I'm also curious to see what's going to happen with the Suro Luxury Edition. That's a passion project from Ray Weirs to bring a really, really, really high-end version of the game Suro. And so I'm hoping to see something from that happen this year. A couple other publishers, Red Raven Games, Ryan Lockett. I love his work, and he's a one-man shop, and he's been on fire producing a lot of releases. I know he's got 2 coming out this year. They've already been a Kickstarter. Dingo's Dreams, which he did the artwork for, and he's publishing, and then also Islebound, which is set in the Above and Below universe. And I don't know if he's going to have anything else. We'll have to see. So we'll have to watch him. And then Stronghold Games, a couple of big titles coming out for them, Porta Nigra and Stronghold 2nd Edition. So those are the publishers to watch. Couple things, 2016 that I'd like to see. Thurn and Taxis, 2006, this game came out. It was the Spiel des Jahres winner. I'd really like to see an anniversary reprint of this. Don't have to do any kind of deluxe edition, but this particular game, this is along the lines of people who would like Ticket to Ride. This would be appeal to, but you're building these mail routes. Really, really solid game design. This is from Andreas Seyfarth and Karen, his wife. Andreas Seyfarth also did Puerto Rico, but this is a really, really solid game. And I think it still has a lot of merit. The mechanics are solid, and I think that it would appeal to a lot of the new people coming into the hobby. It's a great lighter style gateway game, and also giving access to those of us who are later joining the hobby to be able to get this particular game. Now, I did contact Rio Grande Games because they were the last ones who published this. He does not have the rights to this one. So I'm going to try to track down and contact Andreas Seyfarth and see if he knows who has the rights. I'd like to see if that's something that come up. But that's something that I would like to see. Couple other things that I'm curious to see. There's supposed to be a new edition of Agricola coming out in 2016, 3.0, with some new updated decks that Uwe Rosenberg has been working on with the people who are into this big, huge Agricola online community. And I think he's got another large game that's coming out this year. I think it's set in the Black Forest or something like that. And then I'm hoping to see a new Feld this year. And a friend of mine told me that he was reading on Board Game Geek and some of the forums that there will be a dice version, or like a dice adaptation of Castles of Burgundy, which already uses dice, and a card version. So looks like those are his favorite games. So looking forward to seeing if that comes out. And in 2015, I'm curious to see if it's going to happen in 2016, there was a lot of dice-based Euro games that came out. So let me just name off some titles. Voyages of Marco Polo, Signorie, My Village, Roll for the Galaxy, Vienna, Nations the Dice Game, Octo Dice. All these are dice-driven Euros, and which is an interesting thing to see. I mean, we've seen it before, but this many and coming out in 1 year, I'm wondering if we're going to see more of this. It's really profound to see this coming out like in Euro games, that many that are using dice as a driving mechanic. So I'm excited to see if that's going to happen. Share your thoughts below. I'd like to see what you think about that. And then a couple of trends. Let's see moving forward now. We had two major titles that came out that are can define or change the landscape of games that may be coming. We first had Time Stories. Here's a game that you buy the base game, and it comes with the first adventure. You play through it, you solve the puzzle, and essentially it's a once and done. You know what's going to happen, you know the solution. The only thing that you can do in terms of replayability is maybe try to do it in a quicker amount of time. So in order to continue to enjoy Time Stories, you're going to have to purchase the next installment and keep going on that way. So it's essentially like, instead of being a living card game, a living board game. And so now with Asmodee under the Fantasy Flight thing, and we all know how Fantasy Flight is about expansions, we'll see how this is going to go. Now, they do have already, when it released, it came out with the first expansion, the Marcy Case. There's two more that are coming that we know of. We'll see how long this is going to continue and how long the game will be supported. But I'm curious to see if we're going to see more games that are done like this, where you play the game, and in order to continue on, you have to buy the next installment. And then also we had Pandemic Legacy, which shot to the top of the Board Game Geek ratings with this Legacy style game where you buy the game and you play through it, and once you're done, the game is done. But you're going to get significantly more plays, I think, with the Legacy style game than you are over like Time Stories. Time Stories, typically people are able to complete it in a few hours, and so you're spending this money, completing it in a few hours, and then you're done. So I'm curious, what do you think about this? These two particular types of trends. Some stuff that I'm going to be moving forward, and I'll share that with you in a little bit. We'll be having some discussions about. So to me, that's the year in review. So excuse me for being long-winded, but I wanted to talk about lots of stuff that happened in this year. So Next thing that I'm going to do is we're going to talk about the top 10 games of 2015. So spend some time talking about these. But before I do that, a couple things that I wanted to mention. There were a few games that fell short for me, and I'll talk about them briefly and why they fell short for me. The first one was Firefly Shiny Dice, and I really wanted to like this game. The production value is super high. I mean, the dice are awesome, and it comes with really, really nice artwork on the cards. It comes with player mats. But to me, the game falls short in two major ways. First of all, the player count. If you play with more than 2 players, there's so much downtime on a player's turn that you're going to become bored because there's no player interaction. So it's not like what the player's rolling is going to have anything to do with you. You're just watching somebody play through their turn. And if you're playing with the full complement of players, you could go and run to McDonald's and get food and come back, and still it's not your turn and not miss anything. So that was the big thing, was the player count's too high, you have too much downtime. And the second thing is the mission cards. The way that the rules state how they come out, you roll the dice and then you re-roll and then you flip over the mission card, and if you're lucky you got it, if not, it was, so you didn't even have the decision to try to complete the mission in advance. So I thought the game could have used some more development that way, and so those two things really made this game a disappointment for me. I love the theme with Firefly, and the characters are represented well, but to me those two things are major faults with the game. Second one that fell short for me was Spyfall. The game was a lot of hype when it came out, and it's a party game, but it fell short for me on 2 aspects. Number one is that they didn't have a reference card with all the locations for everybody to look at. And so in order to protect the identity of the spy, you had to move around this big, huge map, and everybody would have to stare at it and not look at anybody and ask a question. So I'd be like, okay, so, John, can you tell me what it looks like outside of your work? And so you're really not having this interaction, and so that was one thing that kind of made it fall flat. And then secondly, the number of players. It says you can play with like 2 or 3 players, or 3 players and up, and it doesn't work with lower player count. You have to play with the higher player counts. And so and then when you're doing that, if you play with the same group of people, it's going to be the same thing, because you're going to run out. You can ask the same questions, and so I just kind of fell short for me, because again, for that game to really be fun, you have to play with the constantly changing number of the types of people that you play with. Another one that fell short for me was a game called Witness. It was a cool concept of the play on the game telephone, but 2 majorly limiting factors. Number one, it's a 4-player only game, so you have to have 4 people to play it. And then secondly, in order to make it not clunky, you have to play at a smaller table because you're whispering in people's ears. Otherwise, you have to get up and move around. And you also have to play it in a place that is rather quiet. And so otherwise you can't hear anything. And so again, the idea of a play on the game using the mechanic of telephone, but just to me it didn't function well, and really, really limiting with the number of players and where you can play the game. Another one, Ascension, Dawn of Champions. Up to this point, with Ascension coming out with the deck builder, it had they kept coming out with things that were better and better and better. And maybe with Rise of Vigil, I just thought that was really, really good. And then we started to see things go downhill from there. But this Dawn of Champions came out with like a champion card, and then you had these dual faction things on there that it just made certain things way overpowered, that you'd have turns that would turn out to be longer than necessary, and really, really powerful turns, and it just, to me, it just took Ascension and it ruined it for me. So I think that they need to, moving forward with Ascension, they need to rethink that and go back to making the game a little bit more challenging. Instead of this one, I just thought made it too easy, and it just made it not enjoyable. So to me, it was a big disappointment. And then the last one that I found to be a disappointment was Elysium. Now this may be on a lot of people's top games of the year list. I've played the game several times, and even though we have a number of different families, these god families that have different abilities, it didn't change the game enough significantly where it felt to be the same time after time after time, and there really was not a varying strategy. The concept of being able to draft cards with using these little pillars is cool, but after playing it a few times, it doesn't matter whichever ones you used, it didn't change the game dramatically enough that it just felt the same. It didn't, it just different colors on the cards. So those were ones that just kind of fell short for me for 2015. Some honorable mentions though for games for 2015 that I did like. We have Arboretum. This is a really cool game. If you like Lost Cities, it's going to play similar to that. It's got a tile laying aspect with these cards. You're trying to build this Arboretum. You have to make some decisions about which cards that you want to play and which ones that you want to hold in your hand to have majorities for scoring. This is a really, really, really solid game. So really like this one. Not enough to make it into my top 10, but certainly one that I would recommend picking up. Another one, Tiny Epic Galaxies. So far in this Tiny Epic series, this has been my favorite one. I really love the way that you use the dice in this one with this really cool space theme. So I enjoyed this one quite a bit. And then the other one is California Gold, and I'll be doing a review on this one. I had one and I don't know what happened to it, but this is a really interesting game. It's got a whole bunch of different Euro mechanisms, but they've been Americanized, and it has to do with the orange industry in like around the turn of the century. So really, really cool game. This is from Numbskull Games. So Patrick Stevens, really, really solid game, California Gold. So those are my honorable mentions. So we'll get into my number 10 is Voyages of Marco Polo. This was a really cool dice placement Euro, and you're trying to go around and travel and you're managing resources and doing all these different cool things. It's got some interesting strategies. You can use different characters that give you different abilities, but this one here, Voyages of Marco Polo, is that's a lot of fun. Number 9 is Code Names. Now, this may not be the most like mechanic-wise breakthrough, but man, for a party game, this has done a tremendous job of appealing to everybody. And I think that of all the games that are on my top list, Code Names is the most accessible. And the simple reason is that the game is so simple to play. You put out a bunch of cards out there, and what you're trying to do is it's a word game, and you're giving clues, trying to associate it with it, kind of like a $25,000 pyramid. However, you can only give a one-word clue and a number, and so the challenge is trying to be able to give a one-word clue that lines up with multiple cards that are going to be in your that you need to score, and trying not to have them find your opponent's words or an assassin because you lose the game. But Code Names is a lot of fun, and there's a ton of cards in here to use. And then the other thing is that even though there are pattern cards in here, there's an app that you can use too, and so it really increases the amount of replayability in this. But man, this is a fun game. So Code Names, that was super hyped up at Gen Con. I didn't pick it up until afterwards, but it's only $20, so it's a really good game. Number 8. This is the Stauffer Dynasty, and this is from Andreas Stedding, and this game here is phenomenal. It's got some really interesting mechanics, and you're moving around a variable playing board trying to vie for some area control and getting all of these different these different privileges and stuff. It's really, this to me is a solid Euro. It came out earlier in the year, did not really get that much attention, but you know what, if you're really looking for something interesting, it has to do, like, turn order is determined by how you place workers and all this. It's some really neat stuff as to how this game plays out. But Stauffer Dynasty was definitely one of my top games for 2015. Number 7 would be Nations, the dice game. And with this one here, it takes the whole idea of playing Nations, which is a big giant civilization building game, and you can play it in a fraction of the time. So you can play this with 4 players and you can get it done in 45 minutes. Solo game too, so that's great. But it has a lot of the same feel as playing the actual game Nations, and that's one of the things I think that is really great about this one, and made this one of my top games of the year. Number 6 is Legendary Encounters Predator. And, you know, this one was up towards my top games of the year, coming for this year. But a few other things just that really pushed it ahead of it. But last year, my number 2 game of the year was Legendary Encounters Alien. And this one follows in the same suit here with... again, being a deck builder, again with cards coming off that are hidden and you have to scan to look at them. It adds some interesting things with some other keywords that have abilities to do some extra things. And also with this one, it does something else. You can play this game fully cooperative, just like the Alien one. You can also play this one competitive, where you are playing as hunters and you're trying to collect trophies. You can also integrate this with aliens. So you can play Predator versus Aliens. This one I think is actually better than the Alien game in terms of what you can do with some of the keywords and stuff. Still an awesome game, but this one really is fantastic. And I'll have more in-depth to say about this one coming in 2016. So those are the first half of my top 10. Now we're going to move into the second half of my top 10 games. Number 5 is Barony. Now Barony is done by Marc Andre, the same guy who did Splendor. And this is just a straight-up area control game. And one of the things that I really like about this is it's not complicated, but it gives you a lot to think about on each turn, the move that you're going to make. And just gives an overall really cool, just a good, solid game. At the heart, it is just a great representation of an area control game. Really chunky bits on here, and some of the terrain that you're building on actually has an effect on what you, what you can move and how things can transpire throughout the game. So, Barony, really a simplistic game in terms of rules, but just a really enjoyable experience. This one was probably one of the biggest hidden games for 2015. It came out at Gen Con with not a lot of publicity, and really haven't heard anything since. But really, I find this to be one of the best games for 2015. Number 4 for me is Roll for the Galaxy. Now, Race for the Galaxy, I owned it, and I ended up selling it off earlier this year because I just found that I preferred San Juan over Race for the Galaxy. It just seemed to be an easier game to grasp the concept of. There was too many symbols to be worried about in Race for the Galaxy. And this one here has the symbols, but it's just so much easier to do it. You're rolling dice and you're able to do things, and it just, to me, it just clicks so much better. And the neat thing about being able to acquire dice, and you're drafting, you're building these different developments and getting more dice, and then just making sure that you have, you're going to have to sell off your goods so that you have the currency to buy your dice to put them back in your cup. I just think some really solid design in this, really smart design. This is a lot of fun. If you don't have this one, certainly give it a try. But this is one of my top games of the year. For me, number 3 is Raiders of the North Sea, and this is from Garfield Games, one of the publishers that I said to be watching in 2016. And this has got this really cool worker placement mechanic in here. It's a Viking-themed game. I was excited about this one and Champions of Midgard. I have not played Champions of Midgard yet, but this one, I love it. It's got this neat place a worker, take a worker thing. When you go to make your raids, you have to make sure that you have a crew and provisions before you sail across to go do your raids. It's just really fantastic, awesome artwork. This designer, I'm super excited about him. Just a really awesome game. Like I said, just one of the best games of the year. Number 2 for me is Mysterium, and super hyped up about this game. It came out originally. Well, I got a chance to play Tajemniczy Domostwo, which is the Polish version of the game when it came out. Asmodee got it. They made some tweaks on it that change it up a little bit, especially with using these clairvoyant tokens. You're using that as a wagering mechanism to be able to gather more information if you make it to the end. But this particular game, it plays super well with the full complement of players, and I think the thing that makes this enjoyable is it's Dixit meets Clue, and you have a person who's playing the ghost who has to give these clues and try to communicate information for you to figure things out. And hopefully you have a person who's good at playing the ghost. But the thing that really makes this more interesting is the more players that you have, the more discussion, the more you can be talked out of your initial choice instead of going with your gut. And I think that sometimes that can be good and sometimes it can be bad. And I just really think that in terms of wasting time. But I think that it's really interesting. You really have to work hard at this and being able to decipher things and really see how people think. And so even though it's a cooperative game, there's really not an alpha player syndrome with this, but it's just a super fun game. And so Mysterium is my number 2 game for the year. And my number 1 game for 2015, and this one is La Granja. And I know that this one came out in 2014 through Spielworks, but it was not really readily available. But this one, Stronghold Games, came out with La Granja. This is an awesome Euro. It has cards that have multiple functions on them, depending upon where you place them on your game board. You're able to perform different actions on your turn. And also it has this whole center market thing that's just like Luna. In fact, it even says it was inspired by the board game Luna. It was a Steffenfeld design. And so you're trying to do these different things, producing different goods and upgrading them and being able to fill contracts and stuff. It's just really awesome game. It's super solid. I look forward to playing more of this this coming year, but I was completely blown away by this. If you're going to buy a farming game, buy La Granja. I actually recommend this one even over Agricola and stuff like that. I think this is a really slick design. Plays super quick. So awesome game. So that's my top games of 2015. And I should say this in retrospect now. The ones that I have played, there's been a number of ones that I have not played. So haven't had a chance to get into Orleans yet. I'm super excited about that one. So later on I may have to amend that, but based upon the games that I've played to this point, that was my top games for 2015. Finally, some changes that are going to be coming up with my channel and any channel news. And so first I want to talk about, I saw some nice growth, especially on Twitter and my YouTube presence. It's gone up. I'm I think I'm close to like 900 subscribers. So I would really like to push that really far this coming year. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that factor into that too. I had an increasing presence on Instagram. One of the things that I've been doing when I play games is I'll pull out my camera and I take out pictures and I'll post them on my Facebook page, and then also onto there's a page on Facebook called the Board Game Group. I do these board game snapshots. They've been pretty well received. I just do a little blurb about the games. So I started making sure to post them more on Instagram, so that presence has gone up. Same thing with Google Plus and on Pinterest. I've been using that, posting things on there that are suitable for the game table. Some other things here, just some other sites that I am a fan of, people that I'm friends with and really support. Gray Elephant Gaming, Tim Norris. Him and I have become friends. We talk on the phone a lot, and I'll say this, Tim, I appreciate you listening to me. You know that I've gone through a lot of stuff this year, personally wise, personal life and stuff, and so you've been there to listen to me, encourage me and stuff, so I want to say thank you to you, and I wish you success continuing forward with your Gray Elephant Gaming and all of your stuff that you guys have been doing. So, but I wanted to say thank you to Tim, and for those of you who have not watched the Gray Elephant Gaming, you should check out his channel and subscribe. He's done a really fantastic job. He gives great insights in the game and does really good playthroughs. Another channel that I really like is Dad versus Daughter. Tim and Megan Bresman. They're really do a great job of capturing the heart of playing games together as father and daughter. They give some good insights into the game, and they just do a really good job of explaining the game. And you're seeing the relationship that a father and daughter share together, and I really like that. That they are able to bring that for us to enjoy. Tyler Anderson from the Bearded Meeple, this guy with the big giant ginger beard. Tyler does these reviews that are 4 or 5 minutes long, gives you a little bit of a summary, and allows you to form your own opinion of the games. So I'm a fan of his. Also, my friend Niles Hersman, he does this Brett Spiele. He does a lot of things like In a Nutshell, and he puts some really some good thought into his reviews. He collaborates with a lot of different people, and the fact that he's a German guy who was living in Canada and now down in the St. Louis area, I think that his European background and his thought process about a lot of games, he really gives a lot of insight into the games. And so if you're looking at something where somebody's critical, certainly want to check him out. And then my friends over at the Meeple Syrup Show, Sen Fung Lim and Daryl Andrews, those guys do a weekly video cast, more on the design aspect, but those guys are they're awesome. And then podcast, Heavy Cardboard. I'm not really into super heavy games, but those guys do a fantastic job, so ones that you want to check out as well. Moving into 2016, check those guys out as well. So some upcoming changes that I'm going to be making for my channel, and the big thing is I want to have some varied content. It was a challenge for me this year. I had a lot of things with some work and a lot of other factors in personal life where I just felt like I was just kind of a little bit in a frumpy spot. I get burnt out after a while. I think everybody does that, but it was carrying over a little bit into being able to put out content in the second half of the year this year. And so some of the challenges were that, and then also I live in a house there's 9 of us. So my wife and I, we have 4 children, and then we also have my niece and 2 nephews that live with us. And we have pets, and a lot of times it is noisy in the house, so it's very difficult to get content produced, at least film-wise. So luckily right now when filming this, everybody's at work. My dogs are quiet, and you may hear the birds in the background, but And so it's been a challenge to produce some content in a timely manner, because I have to be able to do that. And then I also have to be in the mood to sit down and sit in front of a camera and film. So some of the things that I want to do is have some varied content, and even video-wise. And so some of the things that I want to do is I want to have some vlogs where I'm going to be giving some insights and more family-oriented content, talking about building libraries and different games and looking at different topics that are family-specific. And so those may only be short things where I just give a point, and I want to try to generate some more interaction and discussion and with the community, and get people talking not only on the channel but amongst themselves, and try to build a community that way. So I think that that's important. One of the things that I want to try and do is harness the energy of some of the kids in the house. And you've seen my niece and nephew. We've done some junior edition things. I'm going to try and get some more of the kids active to be on camera and do some of these family playthroughs. And depending upon the game, I'll try to pull from my resources of kids here or whatever. But I really would like to do some of those with games that we can show a perspective of more than 2 players. Because a lot of people that are doing run-throughs, Rado does them, even like Dad versus Daughter and Gray Elephant Gaming, and I'm not trying to compete against them, but when you start having overlapping people of showing just 2 players playing the game, we're missing out on some of these games that really shine with more players. And so I would like to try to have some content where some of the games are played with multiple players, more than 2, so that you can see how a game unfolds and see how the game differs from 2 players. So that's something that I would like to do. There's not going to be a ton of those, but I do want to have some of those coming out. So look for those to come. I'm working on more of these express reviews. I'm going to do a variation of what I did these board game snapshots. Board game snapshots were pictures that I was taking of board games, posting them around on different social media, different shots of the game while it's being played, and then just a little insight into the game, what it's about, and quick thoughts about that. And so I want to do that a little bit more in respect for people's time, and also to be able to produce content. Some games don't need more than just a couple of minutes to talk about. So I want to do that. And then also with my regular reviews, I want to try to work more towards giving a summary of the gameplay with highlighting some key points rather than going over all of the rules, just so that I can shorten up the time and to be able to film and also respect those who are watching. Some other things that I want to do is trying to do some collaboration with other media people. So I'm working out the people that I want to interact with and host some roundtables through using either like Skype or using Google Hangouts to talk about specific topics in the board gaming industry. And depending upon the people on the panel, we'll have varying content that way. But I think that we're starting to see some changes, and you heard in my news for 2015, lots of different things that are coming with these, with the stuff with Asmodee, the different types of games that are coming out, like Time Stories and Legacy type games. They warrant a discussion, and being able, they will be good to have people interacting and discussing, and so you can see which people you may align yourselves with. So I'm looking to do that kind of stuff. I'm not looking to ride on anybody's coattails. There are a lot of people that I respect, and I would like to be able to collaborate with them and have some discussions. So that's going to be coming around. Also, something new that I hope to be rolling around maybe the second quarter of this year, and that's going to be called the Cardboard Bridge. And one of the things that I am passionate about, and I was a guest on the Maple Syrup show last year, and we were talking about video, like vlogs and stuff like that, and different reviews, and different types of content. What were some opportunities that you saw for people to create content? And one of the things that I really felt was important was being able, or an opportunity was to be able to bridge the gap between the designers and the artists and like the creators and the consumers. And so I'm hoping to have some guests come on and talk about their lives, some of their inspirations, and get some backstory and get to know the people that create the games. Because to me, the more that I know about them, the more that I feel connected to their games, because they're presenting a part of themselves, which is really, really neat. So some people that I have approached that have expressed interest of being a part of the show is Clemens Franz, who does a lot of the artwork for Uwe Rosenberg's games, done a lot of stuff for Lookout Games, Ignacy Trevicek from Portal Games. There's some other designers, Shem Phillips from Garphill. So we'll have to see how things pan out. The biggest challenge for that is going to be scheduling, because the people that I would like to talk with live all around the world, and so it's going to have a lot to do with being able to coordinate a time where everybody can somewhat awake to do this and put out the content. So still working out the details, but something that I'm excited. If I can't do it in video format, I will have some written stuff and do some things that way. Speaking of written, I do have a blog that I will be having more written content on my blog. So we'll be talking about more of my board game snapshots. I'll have some written articles about family gaming, separate articles, different thoughts on that. And then I want to have more stuff will be linked to the blog site as well. So I will have a link for the video in the video description below to take you over to that, so you can click on follow. So for me, I just feel that having a varied types of content is going to make it easier for me to be able to put out more stuff and also be able to expand my growth, and then also keep me from getting burnt out, because I think that everybody goes through that stage, and it usually cycles around. And for me, particularly in the fall, especially in October, I get affected by the sun or whatever, and so I get some of that almost like depression that sets in. And so I don't want to have that happen, and I want to be able to be challenged and be able to do more things. So those are why I'm going to be making some changes coming in 2016. So anyways, thank you very much for spending your time with me to listen to me talk about all of these different changes and different things that are going to be coming forward. A lot of the news that was coming out this past year, top games that are coming out this year, and so I look forward to sharing more with you this coming year. All right, be sure to, if you haven't, be sure to subscribe by clicking the button below, and share this in your network of people. All right, I will talk to you again soon, and we'll have lots of things to talk about this year. All right, bye-bye.